Hi, I'm Mindy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my favorite video of the year, my favorite reads of 2024. This video will be my favorite backlist books, and backlist will be anything not published in 2024. So I have two categories: horror and non-horror favorites. I have a top 5 in each category and some honorable mentions. I am gonna start with my non-horror favorites. This category has thrillers, fantasy, and science fiction. I have one honorable mention, and that is Psycho by Robert Bloch. Absolute classic in thrillers, super dark, and even though I knew pretty much the outcome of the book, I still really enjoyed the writing and the journey through this bizarre story. Number 5 on my list is Confessions by Kane Minato, and this is a thriller, translated thriller, that follows a teacher who is leaving her job because her daughter was murdered, and she's confronting her class because she knows someone in the class killed her daughter. And it gets wild and unexpected, and I love that. Some of the places I wish it hadn't gone, which is why it's number 5 instead of higher on the list, but I really enjoyed the thriller Confessions. Number 4 on my list is The Long Fall Up by William Ledbetter, and this is a short story collection from an indie press that I just finished at the end of December, and it is a short story collection of science fiction stories, and they are all amazing stories. A lot of technology, a lot of possible far futures with space exploration or dystopian situations. Really great collection in small little packages, and I had so much fun reading them. Number 3 on my list for non-horror favorites is Fantastic Land by Mike Bakoven, another thriller, and this one might border on horror, I would say, because it's very scary pretty quickly. Fantastic Land is about a group of young adults that get stuck in an amusement park during and after a huge hurricane cuts off their access to the outside world, and things turn very Lord of the Flies, and it's a deadly situation. Life and death. Number 2 is the entire Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks. I read the whole series in 2024, and it is now on my list of favorite fantasy series, with a lot of my favorite classic fantasy themes put to really, really good use, with a really interesting magic system and world building and characters that are unforgettable, and a plot that is very fast and addictive. Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks, my number 2 pick. And the best non-horror favorite from before 2024 is a science fiction Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And I just finished this one in December as well, and it is now in my favorite science fiction books for sure, and one of my favorite books. This is a big, massive science fiction book that's the start of a trilogy, and it follows humans that are terraforming a planet, and it gets sabotaged, but with enough time, life does find a way. A species evolves, and then another timeline has an ark ship from Earth that is humanity's last hope, trying to find somewhere to live out in space, and their sights are set on this terraformed, beautiful green planet. Next, I have my 5 favorite horror backlist titles for the year, plus 2 honorable mentions because I couldn't narrow it down to only 1 honorable mention even. And the 2 honorable mentions plus number 5 on my list, like I kept going back and forth, like which one is gonna be number 5, which ones are gonna be honorable mentions. It really could go either way, depending on my mood. I even switched it a few times in the last few minutes before making this video. Oh, but 4, 3, 2, and 1 are pretty set. Honorable mentions, though. Here's what I ended up with. The September House by Carissa Orlando, a haunted house story that is pretty unique. There's a woman who doesn't want to leave this haunted house no matter what. This is her home and she loves it, and she will put up with anything and do anything to cover it up when her daughter comes to visit. This is such a fun story that captured me right away and didn't let go until the end. My other honorable mention is Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman. And this is a story of addiction and grief. And it's about a drug called Ghost that when you take it, you can see ghosts. You can see the people that have passed, that you want to see the most, if they happen to be there. I mean, you never know what ghosts are lying around. This one had really creepy, ghostly imagery with a lot of themes that I really enjoy in my books as well. Very dark. My 5th favorite book in the horror category is Mary by Nat Cassidy, which is about an older woman who's going through perimenopause, and she starts having these weird symptoms, and her doctor says, yeah, it's just menopause, you're fine. But maybe it's not. Some really weird stuff is happening. It kind of messes with her head and leads her down this very strange path. It is an unforgettable story with some very, very icky, creepy imagery in it. My 4th favorite horror backlist title is A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. And I'm really glad I finally read this Paul Tremblay. I really like him as an author, but some of his books work better than others for me. And this is by far my favorite that I've read so far. It's definitely 5-star read. And this one is a possession story. And it's about this girl who is really worried about her sister, and her sister is acting so strange and saying some very, very concerning things, and she's worried about her safety around her sister, which is, I mean, it is so incredibly heart-pounding, fast, and wild. And the parents don't know what to do about their daughter's behavior, and they end up putting them on a TV show because they end up in really bad financial situation, and getting on this TV show might help the daughter and will definitely help them financially. So they go on this TV show where their family is going to be filmed to tell their story and to do an exorcism on TV, and that is wow. And it is totally, it has twists and turns and keeps you guessing, which I love. My third favorite horror backlist book from this year is...
I actually forgot to talk about my third book, which is The Fireman by Joe Hill, which is a big apocalyptic novel that I really enjoyed. I love apocalyptic novels. This one involves a pandemic where people get dragon scale, which is designs all over your body, and then eventually you will burst into flames. And there's a group of survivors that are living with the disease and not exploding into flame, and it's about their journey and the people that are against them. And now back to my number 2 pick.
A Child Alone with Strangers by Philip Fracassi. I read this pretty early in the year, and it definitely stands out, and I still think about it all the time. It's a mix of so many things. It is a kidnapping story, but it's also a creature feature. It's also paranormal, like the kid has some kind of powers. Yeah, it's an interesting mix of things, but it definitely hits hard emotionally, and just the tension is off the charts because of this horrible situation that this kid is in. Speaking of tension and horrible situations, my number 1 favorite horror backlist book is The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. And this is a historical horror taking place in Jim Crow South in Florida, and it follows this boy who ends up in a reformatory because he kicked a white boy because he was protecting his sister. And this place is not a good place for kids. And there's someone in charge who uses his power to get away with doing horrible things at this reformatory against people with the least amount of rights. And It is a harrowing story based on a real reformatory where a lot of bad things happened, and this is a really hard-hitting book and super sad and important. There's also his sister is fighting for his release from the reformatory and fighting against a lot of backlash from a lot of people. Just society in general is against them. And yeah, nothing can top that book for me this year. So those are all of my favorite backlist books from 2024. Let me know if you've read any of the books I talked about today and what you thought of them. And I will be doing my 2024 release favorites coming soon. And I will be back very soon with another book related video. Thanks. Bye.